Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Thank you for being here. Hey, Secret Weapon. Hey, Chica. Hello, Lou. So, without wasting any time, big news today, huh? In true crime, which is rather interesting, in my opinion. So, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about just a little bit about the Morphew announcements, and if you guys want to talk Watts after that, we can for a little bit. I'm going to try not to make this 3 hours long. um, so I'm not going to say that it's not going to be, but it's not going to be that long. I do have to eat at some point. Yeah, Chica, interesting, right? Yeah, and I know how you feel about it, definitely. Yeah, you should. Well, I guess we can't really do that. So you should come up and show the information that you found a few months ago, but I forgot we're on YouTube and we can't do that. I mean, we can, but hey, high hopes. I'm glad that you guys are here. I'm surprised. I'm surprised you guys got notifications. I figured I'd be sitting here by myself for a while. Okay, so I'm going to pull up this article. I apologize for all of the ads and messiness of it. It's super annoying, but I don't know how to avoid that. So let me screen share. Okay, and then let me just real quick pull up the chat on my phone because I can't count on StreamYard to keep up with the chat. So I don't know why it doesn't, because it's not like there's 500 people in here. So you think it would just it'd be okay, but it's not. So I don't use StreamYard if I don't have to. But oh, do you guys like my thumbnail today? It took me like forever to make that thumbnail, so I hope you guys appreciate it. I'm kidding. It's hard to make thumbnail for videos when I kind of just do it at the spur of the moment. So figured I'd just make something real quick. Okay. Oh my god, see how messy this page is? It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh my god. So messy. Okay. If you guys are not, hey, Curious Rose, if you guys are not familiar with the Barry Morphew case, which I'm sure you guys are, but just quick synopsis. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I did follow it a little bit when it first happened or when the news was released. So on May 10th of 2020, and correct me if I get anything wrong in the chat. So May 10th, 2020, Suzanne Morphew went missing she went missing after allegedly going for a bike ride, and no one's seen her since. They've done they had a $200,000 reward, I believe, put out, and several, I don't know about several search parties, but I know that they did, or they're claiming that they searched extensively for Suzanne, and have since to come up with any results as far as finding her body. You guys would know more about whether or not Barry was actually looked into or investigated or anything at all. I think that I remember seeing that they did. I might be confusing the Vallow case, but there wasn't. Didn't they dig up his yard or something at his big house in Maysville? I think I saw photos of some sort of excavation or something, but again, I could be wrong. So, yeah, went missing May 10th. Still haven't found her body. And then today we get news that Barry Morphew has been arrested. As I'm watching the live stream, because I did stream it on D Live a little bit ago, and I remember saying, "How could they?" Or I said, "I wonder if they found the body." And then, literally like 2 minutes after that, they said, "Okay, loading. We get it. We're not even gonna play you anyways. I don't know how to stop you. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's muted." Um, so just right after I said, "I wonder if they found the body," they said, "We haven't found the body yet." And I said, "What?" I'm like, "How are they arresting Barry if and you guys would know more about how that works than I would, but how are they arresting Barry if they don't even have a body? Because as far as I know, it's hard to um, charge someone with murder without, the actual body or finding the body. As well as I believe it's difficult when you don't have a murder weapon, as far as I know. Could be wrong about that as well. But I don't want to give out any disinformation, that's for sure. So right after I got done saying that, one of the reporters mentions it, and I would play it, but I don't know how the copyright thing works with Fox or whatever, so, or any of the other MSM outlets. So I just rather not risk it. They asked the DA of Chaffee County how they were able to arrest Barry without a body right after I got done saying that, and she says something along the lines of, "That's why I was a little late, because I was trying to find the part where she answered that question." And her answer was like long, and then I had to keep going back, and it was, yeah, I didn't want to keep you guys waiting any longer. So but she says something along the lines of, "That's my job, and I know what it takes to charge someone without having a body," or something along those lines. It's not word for word. Kind of like, "I know what I'm doing, so don't worry about it," kind of thing, right? So that was interesting. And I love how they released this information about his arrest, or in any of these cases, and then they did the same thing with the Boulder event. I'm not going to say the actual second word. With the Boulder event, they have these press conferences, and then they go to ask questions, and I say that with quotes, "ask questions," because the reporters, they are limited to what they're allowed to ask. Hey, Alexis, they're limited to what they're allowed to what kind of questions they can ask. So it's interesting that they even do the press conferences at all. But anyways, they have to put on a show, right? So one of the reporters does. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm surprised that they do these press conferences because they release this information, but then they when they ask about details of it, they go, "Oh, we can't release any of that information because it's an ongoing investigation." So it's like, okay, why even announce his arrest then? If you guys one can't release anything, or two, you don't know all the details yet because it's still ongoing. Again, you guys might know that better than I do. It's weird to me. So his middle name is Lee. Alexis, use Lee's. You and your Lee names. I'm just kidding. No, it's the powers that be that are making the name Lee look bad or occultic or um, whatever, giving the name Lee a bad name. No pun intended. I've been through the courts, so I know what's reality, and when a case makes me stop and say, "How did that happen?" I know it's instantly fake. I thought, yeah, I agree. I hopes definitely. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to try to pull up this article without a whole bunch of advertisements popping up. This guy is making tacos or something, Fish Friday. What's going on here? Okay, move my microphone closer here. You might hear a little sound from my laptop. It's running a little bit hard, so nothing I can do about that. Okay, here we go. Barry Morphew charged with murder, arrested in Chaffee County. Cinco de Mayo headquarters. All right. Okay, Chaffee County, Colorado. The husband of Suzanne Morphew, a Chaffee County mother who was reported missing on Mother's Day weekend of last year, has been arrested. Barry Morphew is charged with first-degree murder, tampering with physical evidence, and attempt to influence a public servant. Do you guys know anything about that or heard anything about that as far as the uh, attempt to influence a public servant charge? If you do, please let me know because I don't remember hearing anything about that. Was that? Oh, actually, I think I might have. Did I hear something about that a while ago? He tried to bribe someone, right? A police officer or something? I don't know. If you guys know, let me know. Morphew 53. Oh, I'm sorry. While Morphew's body has not been found, Chaffee County Sheriff John Spezzi said, "Our belief is that Suzanne is not alive at this time." Our belief. We believe. Morphew 53 was arrested without incident around 9:15 a.m. Wednesday near his home in Poncha Springs. I might be saying this guy's name wrong. Spez said. Oh, look at, I didn't even see this picture earlier. That's funny. What? What's he doing with his mask? What? Why is he? Never mind. I'm not even going to go there. Okay. My first reaction is relief," said Melinda Mormon, Suzanne's sister, "and grateful. I'm just so grateful." Mormon said she is thankful for law enforcement's tireless work throughout this investigation, noting Spezzi, I should have looked at this guy's name or person's name up, called her this morning to tell her about the arrest. Sorry. At this time, without the body, we wouldn't be able to say that. We wouldn't be able to say that publicly, Stanley said. We do have information that led us to this point today and how we think certain scenarios had occurred, but as we as we investigate further, that may change. So at this time, I can't comment. One of Morphew's employees told Fox 21 they watched as he was taken into custody Wednesday morning at one of his job sites in Chaffee County. Morphew works in construction. I'm sorry. Today, justice is beginning for my sister, Mormon said as her voice broke. It's been a journey that no one ever imagines that they'll take. Through tears, Mormon said she still loves her brother-in-law, though he's done a terrible thing. Um, that's interesting. I don't know if I could love my brother-in-law after he murdered my sister, but we're all different. Not everyone's the same, but me personally, I guess I can't really say that until I'm in that person's shoes, but that would take a lot for me, especially to say I still love you. But maybe they're a better person than I am. I don't know. It just seems again, it would take a lot for me to go there. Spezzi said are we back? It said I'm experiencing connection problems. I don't know why. So in early April, they presented their findings to the 11th Judicial District Attorney's Office. Throughout the nearly year-long investigation into his wife's disappearance, Morphew has maintained his innocence. Honey, I love you and I want you back so bad, Barry said last year in a video posted online. Oh, how long it's been? That's crazy. You guys hear me? You hear me now? What about now? Okay, I just tested it on my phone, so we're good. Thank you for letting me know, you guys. Because my the number count on StreamYard was like it was like faded out, so it wasn't all lit, so I didn't know what was going on. Where was I? Although he declined in person. Oh, yes, his interview a year ago. Very, very similar to Chris Watts on when he gave his interview on his porch that we're all familiar with. Except the only difference is Barry didn't do it in front of a news camera. He recorded it, which I think is even more strange. But and a lot of people will, or the majority of people will take their uh, no emotion and no tears as being a killer or a murderer or guilty or um, a monster because they killed their family, right? Well, I take it as they're just a really bad actor, in my opinion. but it works out in their favor. Okay, although he declined in-person interview requests, Barry Morphew did speak with Fox 21's Lauren Sharf on the phone. Several months into the search for his wife. During that call, he theorized over what may have happened to Suzanne, mentioning the possibility of an animal attack, an accident with someone on the road, or a run-in with another person. A store manager at the Pancha Market recalled what she described as a weird encounter with Morphew just a few days after Suzanne was reported missing. Somebody knocked on the window and it was Barry Morphew, Tiffany Butala said at the time. She said Morphew created a sort of missing poster regarding Suzanne on the back of a receipt. Okay, interesting. Oh, and I just recently, like, I don't know, like half hour before I went live, saw that saw a news clip saying that they couldn't really. This must have been back when it first happened, but they released a news clip saying that they couldn't specify the shape that the bicycle was in that they found. That's kind of strange, isn't it? Like, oh, we can't tell you what condition the bike was in because it's an ongoing investigation. It's like, okay, I don't know. I never heard that before, but then again, there's a lot about this case I haven't heard of. He went to write down a description of maybe what she was wearing. Butala said, I just thought it was weird because he didn't explain the color of her eyes. He didn't explain the color of her eyes were. See, is it just me or is these sentences worded funny? Because that's why I'm having difficulty reading them. I just thought it was weird because he didn't explain the color of her eyes were. Yeah, that's not right. Or her hair or anything about her, like how tall she was or anything. Unless they're obviously doing it word for word, then I don't feel that bad because I don't. Yeah. I was like, I don't even speak that bad, but then I'm just stumbling over my words now. So moving on. I want the world to know that my sister was the darling of our family, Mormon told Fox 21 Wednesday. She was the rose among thorns. That's what I used to call her. Spezzi said investigators do not expect to make any more arrests in the case. The warrant for Morphew's arrest is currently sealed. Morphew is being held in the Chaffee County Jail. His first court appearance is set for Thursday at 10:30 a.m., which I find interesting. As if you drop the zeros in numerology, you have 13. So not 11, not 10, but 10:30. Could totally be coincidental. Not denying that. So the hashtag shine bright for Suzanne. Isn't that kind of similar to the shine like Shanann? Suzanne Shanann? Bench will be at Star Point in downtown Salida off of East Street and 2nd Street. Star Point is a nonprofit organization for developmentally disabled adults. On the bench, shine bright for Suzanne with 2 butterflies, which I find interesting as well, and I know that some of you in the chat will also find interesting. Now, could butterflies just simply be butterflies? Sure. So now that I just read that, I want to go and point out, and again, this is just pointing things out, and maybe I'm just crazy, but I don't think so. But I want to point a couple things out as far as like patterns go. Oh, and I didn't bring up this in my video that I made about the name connections, the name in their game. Hey, Dave G. So not only does the name Lee have different variations in Chinese. So you have Lee, Li, and Lie, all pronounced Lee, but the last one, Lie, is also the English word lie. And some of you probably already know that if you watched my videos, but I just was recently listening to Alan Watts, the real Alan Watts, philosopher, scholar, writer. I went down that rabbit hole. I'm not going to get into that right now, obviously, but there's another Alan Watt with no S, and it's quite confusing and pretty weird stuff going on. So, anyways, I was listening to Alan Watts with an S, died 1973, and he talks a lot about the name Lee, and he goes on to mention how the name Lee means organic pattern. So I really found that interesting, and I wish I would have known that before I made my video, but because that's what I'm constantly pointing out to you guys is the proof is in the patterns for my theory. It's the consistency that they use over and over again with these events. And you'll find, for the majority of them, you're going to find the same red flags and the same characteristics. Again, they're not going to have all the same characteristics because you're going to have ones that are catered to that specific event, because obviously not all of these events are the same. But again, they still use that same like itinerary for all these events. And the powers that be and the ones who are constantly putting the symbolism and numerology and these little Easter eggs in plain sight, they're not hiding them. They love their patterns. They love their anagrams. They love their, I think it's called palindromes, which is when a word is spelled the same forward and backwards. So I find it interesting that Lavelle is a palindrome. I think there's a few other in the Watts case, but they like their dates, their date patterns, like the fancy, like 2/21/12 or 2/2/22. I'm sure something. Look out for that date next year. I'm sure there will be a something significant on that date. But so patterns. That's what they love. And before I point these out, I started noticing in the Watts case that there's a lot of their double letters, right? So you have CC, you have Kevin Kovac, then you have, of course, like the 33 or 11. They love these people. They love the duality of letters and numbers. Anything double, because as far as I know, and Elfin, you might know this better than I do, or be able to confirm this, but if, for instance, if your like life number, your path number is a double digit and it's the same letter, so if it's like 11, 33, they are I always forget what they're called. They're called not prime numbers, but they're called, I forget. But if it's one of those, it means that whatever your life path is, and you have that double letter number. I mean that double letter number, that double number. It's whatever your path or life path is. It's intensified double, right? Is that right? Master numbers, yes. Thank you, Chica. Um, so, anyways, I started noticing in the Watts case, and also learning that they love the duality of things, like the Masonic twin pillars. Um, again with your numbers, but I started noticing how they would use the double letters in names and words. So it's in um, specifically, I started to notice them more in the Boulder event that just happened. There's so many. There's so many. I did like a 3-hour live stream on D Live about it. They were everywhere. So you have, let me think of a couple. There's King Supers, double O's. There's God, there were so many. I'm not gonna be able to remember now. Oh, there was a guy where the hero who always seems to catch everything on camera, right? That it's not scared at all of being killed. He's running around the grocery store, and he passes a guy wearing a Deadpool shirt. Interesting, because it's dead, and then you have pool, um, several other ones. There's many, but I just can't think of them off the top of my head right now. But in the how do I mention this one? In that stampede that happened in Washington recently, after the election, where a few people ended up not making it. There's a photo of the woman who didn't make it, and her alleged husband, I guess. I think they're married. Apparently they started, there's a picture of them, and he's wearing a t-shirt, and it has his company name on it. They did like pool cleaning or something. Pool, Poo, 2 O's everywhere. In the Watts case, boots. How many times has boots been mentioned in the Watts case? A lot more than I would think is normal. You have the boots that are underneath the stairs in the basement, right? That everyone's trying to figure out if they were like Kessingers or what's up with the boots, right? You have the part in the discovery where Chris is being watched or surveillanced, and it says something about seeing a tote bag or something, and then a pair of boots, work boots. And then you have the picture of the work boots that Chris took, but we never got to see, as far as I know. I never saw it. You have Troy McCoy, I think it's Troy McCoy, mentioning how he like noticed that Chris had like one pant leg. Oh, that's interesting though. I just thought of something. Let me write that down or I'll forget. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So Troy McCoy mentions how he noticed that Chris came to work that day on the 13th, and he had one pant leg tucked in and the other one wasn't, and he looked all, and he didn't like the boots he was wearing. I don't know, just it's again one of those times in this case where it's like you go, huh? Like, does male coworkers like pay attention to their other coworkers, like what they're wearing that day? I mean, unless like Troy McCoy is really into fashion, why would he take so much notice as to whether or not Chris was wearing new shoes or new boots or it's a lot of detail to remember about your male coworker. You know what I mean? And as far as I know, Troy McCoy isn't into fashion. So there's like however many minutes of that part of his interview where he's talking about Chris's work boots that he got and that they were Red Wings, and he even knew the brand name of them. So, and again, I don't know what the boots mean. I don't know why it keeps coming up. All I can tell you is that it is, right? So patterns, patterns, consistency, consistency. Yes, are boots and shoes a very common piece of clothing that people wear probably every day or that are mentioned every day? Yes, but again, it's like the Lee names in this case. How many times or how many people does it take to have the same name in one specific area? Like, yeah, the name Lee is one of the most common, if not the most common, middle name in the United States. So, but we're not talking about the whole United States. We're talking about in one homicide case. How many people does it have to have the name Lee for it not to be coincidental anymore? Do you know what I mean? And not only that, but if you did what I did and you go and look up the meaning, because they love they love the meaning behind the word, like names and words, um, and all the symbolism. So when you do that and you see what the name Lee means, and then the other variations that I just mentioned before, and that the name Lee is also one of the 13 Illuminati bloodlines, family bloodlines, that's when it even becomes less coincidental and more on purpose. So again, I don't know what the boots are for. I just know that if you if you look it up in the discovery and you search for it, I think it comes up like, or maybe shoes comes up like 16 times. But anyways, boots are mentioned a lot. Then you have um I think that Chris even says in his interview when he's talking about what Cece was wearing, he said that those were her favorite boots or something. And then you have I don't know if I really want to count this one, but it is still relevant, I guess. Um, you have the Venmo charge or whatever, or payment to the Kessinger gave her mom for new boots. So it's stuff like that where it's like, okay, really? How many times are boots going to come up? Not boobs, boots going to come up in this case, right? And shoes. The shoes in this case, or the amount of times that shoes are mentioned in this case is very significant, but that gets even more conspiratorial. And then, so I don't want to, I guess, go there today, and probably not on YouTube in general, because the way to explain the shoe theory is going to be difficult on YouTube. Okay. So anyways, I know, sorry, that took quite a while to explain, but I like to explain things in detail, right? I don't want to just go, okay, so there's a lot of boots in this case being mentioned, and then there's a lot of boots, or not a lot of boots. There's a lot of double letters mentioned in this article, and then just not tell you guys anything, right? So I apologize if it ends up being a long time for me to explain something. Hey, rear naked bloke. I still love that name. Rear naked bloke. Okay. So I just wanted to read the article, and now I'm going to just point out a couple things. And I could be totally crazy, but I've been noticing, especially recently, all of these, not all of these, but a lot of these. Okay, let me rephrase that. Since the Watts case, and then the Boulder event, and the Morphew case, now that I've been looking at it a little bit more, especially today, I've been noticing the people involved in these cases have these double letters in their names. Okay. Oh, not even the people involved, but also pretty much, like the state, or not the state, but the city, or, well, you'll see. Okay, so right off the bat, you have Chafee, two F's, two E's. And if I can think of an article, like one that's not high profile and recently, if I can find an article that is about just a a news story about another murder or something that wasn't high profile, and I'd compare it to this and see if it's just me, and because it could be that double letters in names are just common. But that's why we're going to just keep a lookout for them. So again, you have Chafee, Ffee, and then you have Suzanne, NN. Okay, Chafee again. Like obviously, I'm not going to count, missing SS and like those kind, but specifically in these pronouns. Oh, and what are the odds that they announce Suzanne, or I mean Barry's arrest almost to the date of her going missing? So pretty much the anniversary, right? What is that? What is that? What does that do when they come out with these things around the anniversary, and especially Mother's Day, right? It's going to affect mothers the most, and they're going to get emotional, and they're going to not think logically, and that causes a problem when trying to see the truth about these cases. So I just found that interesting as well. Kind of like how the Lindstroms did that interview for that radio talk show that I still can't seem to find where they're based out of, or where their show is. I'm assuming Vegas, based on the Vegas Strong Cup that Lindstrom was drinking out of. That's another interesting thing that I won't go into today, but remind me sometime and I will tell you. But it's interesting that they don't do an interview for 2 years, and then on the day of the anniversary, they do an interview with some random radio show that I've never heard of. Because it's the anniversary. It's emotional. It pulls at heartstrings. Okay, so Barry, 2 R's, charged with first-degree murder, tampering. Okay. Poncha, I'd be interested to know what that Poncha means. Poncha? Okay, Melinda Moore, 2 O's. And this is interesting as well. And yes, LI are 2 of the most common letters in the alphabet. I mean, used in the alphabet. So, your Wheel of Fortune, RSTLINE letters. But if we start seeing these LI in here or any LEEs, it's going to start becoming less coincidental or common and more on purpose. But still want to point it out, Mel Lee, because remember what I just mentioned a little bit ago? Lee name variations, LEE, LI, and LEE. Wait, what did I say? LIE, LEE, and LI. Because they're essentially telling us, and they're admitting to us, that these events are all a lie. I know it sounds crazy, but stick around. I promise it will. Or I'd be very surprised if you didn't have a different outlook towards these cases. Okay, so again, you have the LI in Belinda, and then the 2 O's in Mormon. I mean, so far everybody's name has had a double letter. What are the odds of that, right? Thank you, Chica. I'm all LEELI. Okay, Mormon said thank you. Okay, and then it says Spezzy. I should probably figure out again how to say this person's name, but you have 2 Z's. What is that, like 100% of the people in this article have double letters in their name? Hey, Harmony. Hey, Caroline. And anybody else who came in or snuck in and I didn't see you, hello. Hello and welcome to Think for Yourselves Conspiracy Hour. Conspiracy hour and a half. Okay, so 11th Judicial District Attorney, 11, you have your double numbers there. Linda Stanley. This one is interesting, you guys. Can you guys even see that? Sorry, here. It's probably like really tiny. That's better, right? And it should be at least 720 since I'm using StreamYard. But let me know if that helped. Okay. So again, 11th Judicial District Attorney Linda L.I. Lee Stan Lee. So in my video that I mentioned earlier, the names in their game, they will incorporate the name Lee, even if it's not spelled Leeli or Lie. They will use it as like a suffix, or they will put the name Lee or the word Lee in the middle of the word, or anywhere in the word for that matter. So you have Greeley, Raleigh, North Carolina that Chris flew into. So 11th Judicial District Attorney Linda Stan Lee declined to elaborate on whether investigators have identified a cause of death. How could they identify a cause of death if they don't even have a body? Oh, and then something else that's interesting that I wrote down. Miss DA Linda Stanley was sworn in on January 12th, 2021. So she was literally just sworn in January. That's interesting to me. Maybe it's not all that crazy, but again, what are the odds that she just happens to be sworn in now and she takes over this case? Or a few months ago. Something else interesting about the date is it's 2/12/2021. If you take the 0 out, like you would do in numerology, the zeros don't count. You have 2/1/2/2/2/1. Remember I told you they like their patterns and their fancy, like the 2/1/2/2/1/2/1, 12/12/12. Lots of ones and twos in there, right? At this time, without the body, we wouldn't be able to say that publicly, Stanley said. We do have information that led us to this point today and how we think certain scenarios had occurred, but as we investigate further, that may change. So at this time, I can't comment. Okay. Just want to see if there's any other names in here. Didn't Chris Watts say the same thing in his interview? I want you back so bad. Or he said, I want them back so bad. Okay, so the only person that doesn't have a double letter in this article is this store manager, Butala. Of course, again, you have the 1030, drop the zeros, it's 13. Okay. Did it say the first name of this person? Do they normally so this store manager that worked at the Pancha market, wouldn't their I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't their identity need to be kept protected or secret so that if this does go to trial, she could, if she's a witness, she could her life could potentially be in danger, right? If Barry Morphew is that crazy and capable of killing, right? Don't they have to protect the identity of witnesses? So why would they release that woman's name that gave information about the case that worked at the supermarket or the Pancha market? I don't know. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I always thought that any witnesses had to be protected, and they don't know, how do they know this isn't going to go to trial? Okay, so we have Chafee. That's one. I'm going to write this down because I want to look at the odds of this, right? If that's possible, real quick. Okay, so Chafee. I don't know why I said it like that. Chafee is one. Suzanne, two. Barry has two R's. That's three. John Spezzi. And like obviously, I'm not going to count sheriff, right, with two F's, but specifically, the pronoun, the pronouns, pronouns. Okay, so Spezzi is four. Melinda Mormon, interesting. Mormon has two R's. It's five. Any other names mentioned besides? Oh, that's funny. Look at this. Tiffany Butala. Tiffany has two F's. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? See, I knew it. I was kind of shocked that Butala didn't have two letters in it, but come to find out, the manager at the store's name is Tiffany with two F's. All right, six. So okay, so all the people mentioned in this article, every single one of them has double letters. Could that be coincidental? Maybe. But if you know about how these people operate and how they love using their little, you know, whatever it is that you call it, it's very obvious and not coincidental at all. Hey, Hard Eyes. So yeah, so one, two, well, you have, okay, I don't know. Chafee is not a name, but still, so it's still a pronoun. Chafee, Suzanne, Barry, John, Spezzy, Mormon, and Tiffany, all the people mentioned in this article, double letters in their name. Okay, moving on. So, any questions on that? On not just that, but any of the Morphew case? And it's interesting too. I thought of earlier how their house was in the middle of nowhere, right? in the forest. So how convenient for it to be there and for her to go missing, because there's not a person for miles around, probably, or very, very unlikely that anybody would be a witness or see anything or potentially see anything, um, or anybody take her, right? Suzanne, or potential witnesses. So I find that rather interesting that they lived in the middle of nowhere. It's very convenient again. Oh, and not only that, but the fact that they can't, um, or that they haven't found the body yet. Um, and it's a year later. So Jenny May mentioned something about how it'll probably be too decomposed, even if they claim that they found it. Her, not it, sorry. Her body, to show any proof or whatever, you know? And of course, what are they? They're, I guess, more than, what does he do for a living? He does construction or something, or is he does he build homes? I think I remember them saying that he designed their home, but I don't know if he actually built it. He does landscaping. Oh, okay. I thought he did construction. Um, where was I going with that? Oh, that it's interesting that they are another white family, pretty much well off. They're not living too bad, obviously, from that house. So, to me, I find that really interesting because it seems like they're trying to demonize the white middle class male again. And let me guess, Barry didn't show any signs um, of violence in his past, and he was a great husband and a great father, right? Because that would be even more interesting to me if that was the case. And if everybody had nothing but great things to say about the guy, but then once they found out that Suzanne was missing, it's like, oh, I knew he was guilty. Yep, I knew it. I'm like, didn't you just get done saying how great he was? Hey, Ara, good to see you. Because that's what they did in the Watts case, right? Everybody that knew him, the Ruseks, I was gonna say the Watts, but that's his own family. Coworkers, friends, nobody had anything whatsoever like negative to say about the guy. And great husband, great father, great employee, always on time, never never raised his voice, never yelled. Let Shanann lay on his lap even though he had to go to the bathroom for 4 hours, and just really build the guy up as just this amazing person, right? I don't know how anybody could be so amazing and not have anybody have not one thing negative to say about the guy. But apparently, Chris was that amazing. Or so all the people that knew him say. But then, so they say that, but then once they found out, and Frankie Rusek said the same thing, and several other people in the case said, "Oh yeah, once we heard that he backed his truck into the driveway, we knew he was guilty." That's interesting, because in the discovery, and in your interviews, you said that how amazing he was. So why would him backing his truck into the driveway automatically make this wonderful guy that you raved about guilty? Even Nate did the same thing. Oh yeah, once I saw him back, yeah, he's not acting right. I'm like, oh, if Nate was my neighbor, I'd be like, thanks a lot, Nate. Thanks for looking out for me, bud. No, they haven't given any details, Ara. All they said was that they believe she's deceased and that he's been arrested and he's been charged, or they're going to try to charge him with three charges. So they want you to think Nuck and Futz. Make him seem like he had it all, could afford some nice house that if you did the math, they couldn't afford to even get approved for, no matter how good the credit score. Yep. Picture perfect family. He had a white truck, Barry. So, yeah, so they want, in my opinion, they want us, or they want you to believe that it's not only crazy people or drug addicts or or whatever people. Not there's crazy people, and then there's people with mental abilities. I guess that's both crazy, but mental abilities. What did I just say? Mental abilities, mental issues. Anyway, they want you to believe that anyone is capable of committing murder, and even if they don't have any of those characteristics. So if they don't have mental issues, if they don't have what I say, mental abilities earlier, mental issues, that's what I meant to say, or psychological issues, or drug addicts, or yada yada, right? They want us to believe that even a white middle class or even upper class male who doesn't show any signs of violence, perfect all around, is capable of committing horrendous acts and murder. Because does murder happen all the time? Of course it does. Does it happen like this with the Watts case and with Barry? No. And if you've seen it in other high profile cases, it's probably likely that those were also orchestrated. I don't know how long they've been doing this for, but I know that they are doing it. Anyways, I question the Madeleine McCann case. I question John Bonet, but I'd have to look into those a lot more to say for sure. But do you guys see what I'm saying? So they're using these cases, and it doesn't matter if it's a white middle class male, if it's a African American middle class, or whatever. They're trying to what's the word I'm looking for? They're trying to what's that specific word? We're gonna play a game called What's the word Megan's thinking of? They're trying to not overzealous. No, they're trying to up murder. I don't know. You guys could probably help me out better with this. I don't know. I can't think of it. But they're trying to make it seem like pretty much anybody can commit murder, and that is very possible. But you usually do not. When it comes with murder, there's some sort of reason as to why they do it, right? Hey, Vicky. Like, again, like I mentioned, psychological issues, bad childhood, whatever, drugs. Murder doesn't normally happen from someone who just doesn't have any of those characteristics. You know what I'm saying? There's usually a reason for it, or some sort of motive behind it, or anger, I guess. I guess you don't really have to. There's people that have committed murder out of revenge and rage, but if you notice with these cases, like Chris Watts, they have still have not given us a definitive motive as to why Chris did what he did. They gave us little snippets like the, how Shanann was kind of bossy and Chris was an introvert allegedly, and how he just kind of, did whatever she said. Then you have the bankruptcy and the medical bills and all of that debt. Then you have Nicole Kessinger, who could be a possible motive, or all of them combined, but they don't actually give us a true motive as to why Chris did what he did. You have Michael Rourke in the courtroom saying, "Oh, I believe it was to." It's like, is it your job to give us your opinion, Michael Rourke? Your opinion is you believe this is why Chris did what he did? That's not what I want to hear from a DA. I want to hear, this is why Chris did what he did. This is the motive for him killing his entire family. I don't want to hear that believe crap from you, Michael Rourke. So they don't give us an actual motive, and then they didn't even try to get a motive from him. That's the crazy part, you guys. They didn't even try to get a motive out of him, even if it was a lie. They didn't bother. Michael Rourke states that in an interview that I put in one of my videos, how he said he didn't think that, or they didn't think, if they asked him to give a factual basis for his crimes, that he would tell the truth. Well, how do you know, Michael Rourke? How do you know if you don't try asking him? It's just a cop out. It's just a way to just get around everything, and it's so annoying, but it works. But they don't want to give us a motive, in my opinion, because that would mean that we would have some sort of closure. We would, we wouldn't be sitting here going, why did Chris do this? How could he do this? If he was such a great, amazing guy, nobody had anything bad to say, how could he commit these crimes? That's what they want. They want us confused. They don't want us to have closure on this case or any of these other cases, that they leave us with all these unanswered questions. Which it should be. It should be open and shut. With the amount of information that they gave us, and with the, as easy as they're like, oh, plea deal, he confessed, that's it. So then why do we have so many unanswered questions? Because it's done that way on purpose. They don't want to give us answers to those questions, and they're not going to. So people are going to be trying to figure out what happened in this case forever, and it's never, they're never going to figure it out. It's impossible. This case was not made to be solved. You can file all the FOIA requests you want. You can file all the CORA requests you want to try to get the information. They will not give us those answers. Hey, Fox, good to see you. I like the new name. You'll have to explain that to me later. So, again, the reason for not giving us a motive, and the reason why in this particular case that Chris didn't fit the profile, is because they want us to constantly be in fear. Fear is, if you want to control people, you do it with fear. And that's how the powers that be are controlling us, is with fear. One way, right? And so that's how they're doing it. If Chris doesn't fit the profile as a family annihilator, and everybody had such great things to say about him, then what's stopping your husband or your significant other, who didn't show any signs, right? And it was just, he's a great husband and a great father, or even someone even close to you, for that matter. It doesn't even have to be your significant other, but someone who you trust with your life, right? Who never showed any signs or any warning. If Chris can do that, then what's stopping it from happening? What's stopping it from happening? What am I trying to say? What's stopping your significant other or your husband from doing the same thing to you? Whatever way I have to say it, I'm going to make it work. So I have to reword everything. I will get it out. Thank you, Kelly. I don't know how many times I've seen, but I mentioned this in my last live. I don't know how many times I've seen in comments or on Reddit or wherever someone say, I'm freaked out. I can't even imagine if my husband did that to me or my boyfriend. Like, there's been so many comments where people have, or where women have said that they're scared that their husbands are going to do the same thing to them. They don't want us to be trusting with our loved ones. They want us to think that the only people we can trust is law enforcement and the government, and that's just simply not the case at all. It's the word I'm looking at, not downplaying, but are they upplaying murder? I don't know. I can't think of the word, but they're trying to hype it up like it's like it happens more than it really does. Again, yes, is murder real? Because I have to make this clear for those people those few individuals that are probably going to comment and say, so what are you saying, that murder is not real and everything's fake? No, it's not what I'm saying. I shouldn't have to say that, but I do, to make it clear. That's not what I'm saying. Murder is definitely real, but I don't think it happens as much as they are claiming it does, and especially in the way and from these high. Why are there certain cases that get this high profile mainstream media attention? That's what I want to know. I mean, I know why, but really, why is it that, because murders happen all the time, so why do some get more attention than others and more media attention? Like, why is one murder any more important than any other murder? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't you guys find it rather convenient that there was no murder weapon in this case? I mean, to me personally, it's rather convenient, because with an actual murder weapon, there's more than likely going to be some sort of DNA. There's going to be blood. There's going to be a graphic crime scene that's going to be it's going to need cleaning up, right? That means also they're going to have to do a full crime scene investigation with real crime scene investigators, with actual, not that, putting yellow tape around a crime scene makes it a factual or an actual crime scene, but usually that's what we see, even not in the movies. So that would mean they would have to actually do investigative work on a crime scene. But since there's no murder weapon, there's no blood, there's no DNA, there's no nothing. So that's why they were able to, and they're not going to go through all that trouble in order to convince people that this case really happened. There's little tricks that they use, and they are quite clever, to be honest. But it makes sense once you start, if you look at it from a different perspective. Why, why there's no murder weapon, why it's so convenient how Chris used his hands or used a blanket to smother the girls, says the narrative. That's why they were able to go in there and grab a couple of things, some sheets, and throw them in trash bags, and boom, yep, that's it. We're done, guys. Lock up the house. We're good. Not that they provided any crime scene photos for us anyways, but if there was blood and everything like that, I'm pretty sure that they would have to provide some sort of photos as far as that goes. And they just don't have to go through all that trouble to do it. It's also why they didn't give us a actual crime scene. There's 3 different crime scenes. You have the house, you have the truck, you have Survey 319. And also by doing that and not giving an actual definitive crime scene, it causes confusion and people don't know where it happened. Then you have Chris's 4, 5, 6, 7 different confessions now, right? But by doing that, they don't have to do any real crime scene investigating. They can just, in order to convince the masses or the public that of the narrative. Oh, I forgot a name too. There's another name that I found interesting. So, in the Watts case, you have Al Walker, who was the CEO of Anadarko at the time of that this event happened. Then you have the 2 firemen that work at forgot what county or city they worked. Is it I don't know, but they brought them in to help with the retrieval of the bodies at Survey 319. But so the picture that everybody knows, that you guys all know about, with the 2 firemen and they're supposedly pulling Bella and Cece out of the tanks. Perfectly framed picture of these 3 firemen, right, or hazmat crew in front of the oil tanks, and of course you can't see anything. Not that, I mean, it would be graphic if that were really the case, but it's convenient, just like Chris's truck was in the way to see anything happening. Although we're being told that's what's happening, he's dragging the bodies of his family out. We don't actually really see anything. But that's the thing, is if the mainstream media or the law enforcement says, hey, this is what Chris is doing, and he's dragging the bodies of his family out to his truck, and although it does look like it, there's no physical evidence or proof that that's what he's doing. Just because it looks like that's what he's doing, it doesn't mean that's really what he's doing. But so it's circumstantial. But if the mainstream media told us and law enforcement, then why would we question it otherwise? The majority of people wouldn't, unless you are aware of these tactics that they use in these events. So just like how it was convenient that Nate's camera was pointed towards their driveway, and how convenient it was for, I guess, Chris, because of that bush or that tree and then his truck on the other side, we couldn't actually really physically see him dragging any actual bodies, right? But the majority of people will just believe it without ever asking any questions. Just like the photo, the perfectly framed photo, as I just mentioned, of the hazmat crew. And I got off track from the Walker thing, but I'll get back to it. 1, again, it's perfect picture, right? Clear. 2, who took that picture? Was the media allowed there? I don't remember if was it in the discovery as an evidence photo? But to me, it's rather convenient that we have that photo of them pulling allegedly the girls out of the tanks. I mean, how perfect is that photo? You have the firefighters, hazmat crew right in the way of the tank, so you can't see anything being pulled out. You can't see any actual physical bodies or evidence, or I mean, not even you. They don't even give us blurred out, right? They could blur them out when they pulled the girls out to prove that that's what they were really doing, but they don't. And it's convenient that all three of the firefighters or hazmat crew, whatever they are, just so happen to be blocking the tanks, right? But you know what that picture does? It makes people emotional. It makes it so people don't think logical and they just say, "Oh my God, that's horrific. This is a picture of Bella and Cece being pulled out of the tanks. Oh my God!" But how do we know? I mean, think about it, you guys. How do we really know that that's really what was going on in that picture? It's just a picture. I mean, literally, think about it. It is literally just a picture, and we're only being told that's what's happening in that picture. But how do we really know? How do we really know that's what is actually happening in that picture? We don't. We have to take their word for it. Or why would we question it, right? Like I just said about the Nate's camera footage. Regardless of who tells you something, whether it be law enforcement or the mainstream media, question everything. It's so important these days, you guys. Question everything. Just because someone tells you that's what you're watching, or someone tells you that that's what's going on in just a still picture or image, you still should take it with a grain of salt and say, how do I know that's what's really going on? Just because you guys told me that there's bodies being pulled out of a still image, I don't see anything. I don't see any bodies. You guys didn't even bother to, take a picture with the bodies blurred out. Even then, it could be um, deceiving. You know what I mean? So sorry to hear about your husband, Alexis. Yeah, exactly. Hard Ice. And they have all these deep fake photos and everything. That's why it's so important these days, especially with the technology, to not believe everything you're told and see. And unfortunately, that's just how it is today. And the mainstream media is controlled by all of the same corporations, all the same companies. Just you don't even if you don't believe in conspiracy theories or corruption or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just like question everything until proven otherwise. That's my advice. If somebody tells you something and they can't back it up, or they're not willing to answer questions about it, or they seem annoyed or whatever, then that should be your first red flag. And a lot of the things that mainstream media puts out, we're not going to be able to vet. It would be impossible. But anybody, anyone, any corporation, anything, they can tell you this is this or that's that, and this is factual. But it doesn't make it factual at all. And it sucks. It sucks that we can't um, trust people anymore, and we can't just go to a or watch the news or go to a article or go to a channel on YouTube and get facts about a true crime case or a political topic or whatever. Um, I even if you go to a cooking channel, if you watch a cooking channel, don't just because they say that it's good doesn't mean that their recipe is really good. That might be a really bad example, but I'm just saying, like, just don't. It's so important not to believe everything you hear, and well, think for yourself. You know. But it would be nice to be able to trust people, and unfortunately, like these days, you just can't. You can't. Yeah, I thought about it, Alexis. Actually, I about the merchandise thing, but that would mean I would have to sit down, design it, and I'm so like a perfectionist, and I would have to be dedicated to doing it. I wouldn't want to just throw some design on a website together. I'd want to, create my own. But that's a great idea, Alexis. Yeah, exactly, Chica. And that's the thing too is there could be several different reasons as to why they're deceptive. The person or the group of whatever that are telling you these things as factual or claiming these things to be factual. And a lot of people are manipulative. And if everybody knew that they were being manipulated, then that person wouldn't be a very good manipulator. You know what I'm saying? And if these PSYOP, PISA, um, if everybody knew about him, then they wouldn't be a very good PSYOP, right? But if I'm hoping that if my goal is to at least, if anything, just try to get as many people as I can to just think logically and think for themselves. And I know cheesy. No, but no, it is. It's so important these days. And just to ask questions. And again, if anyone's claiming that it's that what they're telling you is factual and they can't back it up, then to me you have your answer, in my opinion. Or if you're being timed out in another chat room for simply asking questions, or if you're being blocked for simply asking relevant questions, then you have your answer right there. You guys notice too that this case is the mainstream media has not covered this case in I don't know how long. It's only still going strong on social media. Like if this whole 35C thing was a legit thing and a possibility, don't you think that the mainstream media, not People Magazine, not um, the Daily Mail, don't you think that the mainstream media would be covering the 35C thing or any of these other claims? But they're not, because their job in 2018 was to push the official narrative of the Watts story and to get it out to as many people as possible and as quickly as possible. That's their job. That's their purpose. That's it. So once they push the narrative onto us and beat it into our heads, they're done. They're not going to cover. They don't cover these orchestrated events anymore. And why are the both families engaging on social media and hiring amateur lawyers or whatever to supposedly represent their son? I mean, it just, if you like, really, if you just think about it, you guys, it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's not real life. It's really not. Hey, Swamp Lover, it's a show. It's a drama series. The world's a stage. I mean, if there's all these people that think that the law enforcement in Weld County and DA Michael Rourke are corrupt and they're capable of a cover-up, of a quadruple homicide cover-up, you don't think they're capable of orchestrating one? It doesn't, it's really not all that crazy. If they think that the government is corrupt enough to do a cover-up on a homicide case, again, you don't think that they're even more corrupt to deceive millions of people in order to push an agenda or multiple agendas? I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy to discredit my theory and say that it's impossible. There's no way. And then go and say that they were capable of doing this whole cover up and covering up for every single person involved in this case and all 4 accomplices. I mean, that's crazy. That is crazy to say one thing and then to discredit my theory. This case is much, much bigger than people realize. Beyond a cover up. And the problem that I have with the cover up theory is, why would they release this amount of information just to make themselves look incompetent, to make themselves look like fools, to make themselves look like they don't know what the hell they're doing? Why would they release the information just to try to cover it all up again? It doesn't make any sense. If Anadarko wanted this case to go away, they would have made it go away completely. If Anadarko didn't, if they wanted it open and shut, they wouldn't just not make it go to trial. They would make it so that this Shanann's Facebook wasn't made public, so that the discovery files weren't made public. If they have that much power to make a trial go away, you don't think that they would have enough power to stop all of this information from being released? In my opinion, it just doesn't make sense. They're not going to release all this information just to cover it up. They release this information on purpose so that we will get hooked, so that we will go down rabbit holes, so that we will be psychologically affected, so that they can use fear to control us, so they can keep tabs on us, so we're social experiment guinea pigs, collect our data so that they can use this data against us in the future. Why do you think that so many people can't get away from this case? Because it's done that way on purpose. It has holes in its narrative on purpose. It's not because it's a cover up. I know that it might seem like that, but there's inconsistencies and holes on purpose because they don't want us to solve this case. They want us to think that Troy's involved, and that's why he went back for the wrench. They want us to think that Jimbo's involved, and they didn't provide even let us know if he was even interviewed or not. That's why Kessinger was never treated as a suspect, because they want us to be pissed off at her and hate her and loathe her for not having any emotions or empathy towards the victims, or for her not being properly investigated. That's the goal, and it's working for 2.5 years now. That's why there's so much information released in this case, and that's why there's more unanswered questions than there is answers. There's more questions than there are answers, when it should be the opposite. Like, I'm sitting here saying there's a good possibility that no one needs to be crying over this case anymore. Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that, you would think that people would want to hear that? I'm saying there's no reason to be sad about this case. There's zero reason to let this case affect you, is what I'm saying. If it were real life, yes. But even then, we don't know these people. We don't know the families. We don't know the Ruseks. We don't know the Watts. All we know is what we've been told. How do we know that they're not all psychopathic killer murderers? We don't. But we're told that they're victims, and victims are victims, right? Victims make people innocent, and they're not bad at all. They're perfect, right? No. Being a victim just makes you a victim. It doesn't make you a saint or an angel. So to say that just because they're victims, they're off limits from being scrutinized or questioned is bullshit. But that's one of their tactics. That's the poor us. We're victims. We are victims in a traumatic homicide case. You don't know what we're going through. That's a tactic that they use. It's poor me, poor us. Well, I'm sorry that you're a victim, and I'm sorry that if you really lost someone in a tragic event. But now it's 2.5 years later, and you're still pulling the victim card on social media. So that, why? So that if anybody like myself or anybody else questions your motives, then that makes me a horrible human being and I'm a piece of shit because you're a victim. Well, too bad. Sorry. I don't care. Call me a spiteful person. It doesn't matter. I don't, and I'm not gonna say I don't care, but I care about not being deceived by the powers that be. So if I have to expose a couple of victims, quote unquote, I will do it. Because I'm not going to sugarcoat this anymore. I'm just not. Sorry, I'm like in a mood right now. But I'm not going to, I don't care, honestly, if I upset some people. Because people need to wake up. Flat out, wake the fuck up. Because it's only going to get worse. That might sound dramatic, but it's not. Trust me when I say it's not. Don't trust me. Think for yourself. But that's how they use manipulation on us and play the victim cards and make these cases so horrific that even if things don't add up, it doesn't matter because people are just so distraught and emotional that all logic goes out the window. And then the people that are upset by the case get upset and pissed off when you question these victims that are involved. It's a tactic. It's a brilliant tactic, but it's a tactic that they use. Honestly, the fact that all of this information was released in the case, in my opinion, should prove my theory in itself. And that might sound like, conceited or something, but it's really not. Like, if you think about it, why is it that so much information in the case was released and nothing adds up? How is it possible that there's more questions than answers? And I know this is repetitive, but it's so important. And why was no one's personal information redacted? Why was it not protected? You know what would happen if they redacted the information of people involved in this case? Nothing. Nothing would happen. Why? Because then we wouldn't have names to go and search for online and to go down rabbit holes and figure out who in the hell Jimbo is and Troy McCoy's family background and when did he work and Nicole Kessinger. Oh man, that rabbit hole. If her identity was protected like it's supposed to be because she's the mistress, if it was protected like it's supposed to be, we wouldn't be looking up her name and we wouldn't be trying to find who her family is and we wouldn't be trying to find where she went to school. But how would their whole psychological nonsense work if they actually did what they're supposed to do in real life? Oh, good night, Callie. Thank you for being here again. Thank you for your support always. Sleep well. Yeah, so nothing would happen. Nothing would happen if they protected the personal information and names of people involved. It would take away all of our investigating pretty much, right? Who would we have to investigate? Who would we have to look up? Whose information? How could we find out where Nicole Kessinger went to school and who she was friends with and yada, 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 even though most of her information's been, or it's not even been scrubbed. It probably just never existed in the first place, in my opinion. You see what I'm saying? What would we have in the true crime community to search for, to try to solve, to figure out? There would be nothing left in that discovery because they didn't give us anything in the first place. So what rabbit holes would we be going down? What would we have to discuss about the case if everything was redacted? We wouldn't. That's why they're not redacted. That's why their personal information wasn't protected. And if something is if it's not real life, there's no psychopathic killer murderer to protect them from if it's not real life. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if it were real life and if one of these individuals involved in the case could have potentially had a reason as to why Chris is in prison, or maybe why Chris had to go to trial, or whatever, Chris would be pretty pissed off, right? If he found out that someone's statement or interview could have possibly had something to do with him being incarcerated for the rest of his life. And if he's supposedly a psychopathic murder family annihilator, I definitely would not want my personal information being released to millions of people. And not only that, but my interview and everything else being released and Chris seeing that. Because regardless if you're on the inside or not, there's ways to getting to the outside. And that's why people involved in these, especially homicide cases, have to have their personal information protected or redacted for their protection, for their privacy. Privacy number one, protection number two, or I guess no specific order. So we're led to believe that Chris is a psychopathic murderer that murdered his entire family with his bare hands, except he talks about macaroni and cheese and what kind of milk he had that day. Please, 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 please. What kind of psychopathic killer is surprised by law enforcement agents that allegedly put him away for the rest of his life, multiple life sentences, and they say, "Hey, Chris, you remember us?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, hey, how's it going?" Like, really? Is he that lonely that he's going to be like, "Sure, I'll talk to you guys"? No, No, it's not real life. It's made for the movies. And surely they couldn't have a video recording of Chris in prison because he would show his duper's delight, and probably we might actually catch on to the deception. They wouldn't want that. Not that they really care, because they know that the majority of people are never going to be able to see the deception. But again, we have been led to believe that this guy is psychopathic. Some even compare him to worse than Ted Bundy and Manson and all them. That's crazy to me. Because when I look at that kid, I'm like, sound like Jeremy Lindstrom now. When I look at that guy, doesn't look like a killer to me. He looks like a bad actor who definitely does not have a 135, 140 IQ or a photographic memory, aka Rain Man. Hey, Chris, you remember us? Oh, yeah, hey, you guys are the guys that put me away and tricked me and lied to me so that I would confess to my father and put me in prison for the rest of my life. But sure, can I tell you what I had for lunch today in prison? Well, I had macaroni and cheese and Chris, was it chocolate milk? No, it wasn't chocolate milk today, unfortunately. It was white milk. I like chocolate milk, but nope, just white milk today. I don't have the privilege of getting chocolate milk yet. I haven't been here long enough. But the macaroni and cheese was good, so that was a highlight of my day. Thanks for being here, guys. I haven't talked to anyone in a really long time. How would you like to finish all my sentences for me during this 5-hour interview as well? That would be fantastic. Thank you. I could go on and on about that interview. It's so ridiculous. 5 hours, more than 5 hours of my life wasted away that I will not get back ever again. Hey Chris, why did you put the girls in the tanks? Is it because that you were nervous or whatever? I thought you guys were there to ask him questions. I thought you guys were there to try and figure out what to do in the future if this ever happens again, or figure out what you did wrong. Aren't you trying to analyze him? Aren't you trying to see what kind of answers he gives you? Why the hell do you keep finishing his goddamn sentences for him? Excuse me, I didn't mean to say GD. But why do you keep leading all his questions? I would like, for once, I know I don't normally say this, but I would actually like to hear what Christopher has to say. But yet you guys just keep answering for him and just leading him. Oh, is it because you felt this, Chris, or you felt that, Chris? Oh yeah, now that I think about it, I think that's probably why. Guy can't even remember his lines correctly. No wonder they didn't have him on video for the 5-hour Wisconsin interview. They did the same thing for Kessinger. They already, it seemed to me like they already knew what Kessinger and Christopher, what Chris were going to say throughout these interviews. But they had to have some video footage in order to convince us that this whole thing is real. But they're not going to have Kessinger on video footage, and they're not going to have Troy McCoy, so that we'd be able to analyze them and try to read their body language. No, they wouldn't want that. But all you have to do is play audio for the public, and they will just 100% believe it. And the best part about that Wisconsin interview is at the end when Tammy goes, "Hey Chris, can I take a picture of you? I promise I won't release it to the public. Would that be okay?" And what does Chris say? "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, I don't care." Like, this guy's got a 135 IQ and he doesn't know that Tammy's Pulling a fast one on him? Come on. Come on. Get out of here with that. Hey, Chris, can I take a picture of you just so we can have it for reference to see how you've changed and how your looks have changed since being in here and eating macaroni and cheese and drinking white milk? I promise I won't release it to the mainstream media or the public. And then what does Tammy do? She turns around and releases it to the public. Why? Because it's all part of the show. Hey, look, it's Christopher Watson, Wisconsin prison when we went to go interview him. Funny little interesting tactic that she used. Hey, can I take a picture of you, Chris? So it's mockery. And that's what pisses me off. And I'm not, making fun of anybody that has believed this narrative. That's not the case at all. So I just want to make that clear. It's just that it pisses me off, like to my core. And that's why I'm trying to wake people up, because it's so important. And the deception is not going to slow down. It's not going to stop. Unfortunately, there's no way to prevent it from happening. But if more people wake up, it might just be a little bit harder to push these agendas onto us successfully. And I'm hoping that their symbolism will be their downfall, and their because they don't care. They literally put everything in plain sight. They don't care. But if you can, again, push your emotions aside with these, and I'm not saying all of these murder cases, because again, yes, murder is real. But if there are these high profile, they happen everywhere, but let's just say, let's leave it in true crime. These high profile murder cases, write down those characteristics and those red flags that I talk about all the time. If you start to see and notice some of those red flags, and again, they're not going to have all the same ones because they're going to cater to that specific event. So maybe the next one might have a trial. Just because there's no trial, it doesn't make it orchestrated. But if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those red flags, you're probably looking at an orchestrated event that is done to push multiple agendas. Look out for the symbolism. It's in plain sight. They're not hiding it at all. That's one of the easiest ways to spot these orchestrated events, is their symbolism. Go and watch RV Truth, his channel. He talks about the same symbolism that I do. The Lee, the lie, Ash lie. Shanann went to the Thirsty Lie in Scottsdale. The Watts were from North Carolina. Christopher Lee, Nicole Lee, Nico Lee, Dwayne Lee, Nicholas, all the Nicholas and Nicole's in this case. Nicholas, it means to conquer the people. Victor of the people. That's what they're trying to do. They are trying to conquer us. They're trying to control us through fear, through manipulation, through psychological agendas. I don't know. I can't say the second word. But if it just takes that one thing for someone to get a wake-up call. Again, mine was September of a while ago. Really big day. You guys know what I'm talking about. That was my big wake up call. And that's what made me start searching for things, as far as corruption and, are we, what we're really being told, is what we're being told really the case. So all you need is just that one thing or something to wake you up. And then you have to want to find the information. You have to want to look at things from a different perspective. You have to want it. You have to want it. But once you do, once you're awake, and of course, it's a scary thing knowing that a lot of what we've been told is not really what's going on. And it's scary at the same time knowing, but I would rather know than what's going on around me and not be one of those individuals who are manipulated and deceived through these individuals who don't give two shits about our feelings or what they're doing, because all they care about is themselves. So I rather not, spend nights crying over victims of a case that I don't even know. To be honest with you, yes, is it sad? It's very sad when innocent lives are taken. But what's even more sad to me personally is seeing people affected emotionally and letting it affect their lives over something that they shouldn't be or it shouldn't be. That's what's sad. And the fact that there are so many victims out there who are not getting recognition, who are not having their memories kept alive. That's what's sad. So I would rather be awake and be called a conspiracy theorist and crazy, and think for myself and ask questions and have a mind pretty much, than to be controlled and live in a bubble for the rest of my life and allow anyone to control me or my thoughts. But when or if and when or when and if um you are able to finally to see all these things that I've been talking about and trying to show you guys, it's going to feel like such a weight lifted off your shoulders, because they're so easy to spot once you um are able to see these things that I've been pointing out. And even if you do, and you just really like true crime and you want to discuss a case, I mean, that's great, that's fine. But at least you won't be affected by it. Uh, be you won't let it affect your life by like not being able to sleep at night, the crying, and it just, I mean, it literally, again, they don't give a shit that there's women all over the world that have literally let this case and other cases affect their lives, like, physically and emotionally. That's terrible. But once you are able to see it, or if, hopefully, when, I'm telling you, they're so, for the most part, easy to spot because they just put it in plain sight. They don't care. They don't care that maybe if a few here and a few there, truthers, whatever, they don't care because they know that the majority of people do not think for themselves and are going to believe whatever they're told. And if anybody does speak out, they try to silence us by putting certain examples in their guidelines. They silence us by taking our channels down. They have the Honor Network, for example, that goes around and has 300 to 400 volunteers that mass flag conspiracy theorists channels or anybody that's going against the official narrative and gets their channel taken down. They scrub any proof or in majority of proof or information that would back up a lot of what I'm saying. So that's why it makes it difficult. So the fact that they are trying to, it actually states in the guidelines on YouTube that you're not allowed to question the authenticity of a tragic event, even though there's many holes in it, even though there's many holes and red flags in its narrative. To me, that supports my theory even more than the information being released and not redacted. If anyone is trying to silence you that much, to me, that says a lot. Because again, you can say that there's 4 accomplices. You can say Troy McCoy is a murderer. You can say Nicole Kessinger is a murderer. You can say Nicole Atkinson is a murderer. You can even go as far as say that Shanann is a murderer. That's okay, says YouTube. But it's not okay to question the authenticity of a tragic event. Why? To me, accusing someone of murder is a hell of a lot worse than just questioning a narrative that has holes in its, or many holes in its narrative. So, that being said, I have to go make dinner now. But I went a little over 2 hours. 3 minutes. As long as it's not 3 hours, I'm fine with that. And I could go on. And hopefully I wasn't super repetitive today. But again, I don't care. I really don't. I will repeat this information as long as it takes. And now that this Morphew case is back up again, we'll see how it goes. But keep an eye out. Keep an eye out with this case with the Morphew case for some of the things I've talked about, the inconsistencies, the lack of emotion from family members, the numbers, the names, the symbolism, just anything that where you go, that's kind of weird. Why would they do that? Or why would that person say that? Or why are they not being so transparent? Why are they being holding things back? If you're finding that your gut is telling you that, or you're having those instances where things don't add up, it's probably because they don't add up for a reason. And that's when you need to take a step back, try to push your emotions aside. That's possible. Look at it from a different perspective. And I promise you that when you do, and once you start to see these things for what they really are, they're going to make so much more sense. The Watts case will make so much sense. All the inconsistencies, all the holes, everything will make perfect sense. So that being said, thank you everyone for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you to my moderators. And I appreciate you guys sticking around with me this long. So, again, don't believe anyone. Think for yourself. Do your own research. Bye, guys.